violation of a contract. And so we're going to cover that a bit today, and the fact of the matter is that man can only be bound by contract. There's no other way. Involuntary slavery is abolished. And so if someone or something has authority over you somewhere in your life, it is because of a contract somewhere in place, or a presumption of a contract. And these are the things that we need to deal with to separate ourselves from these, so that we separate ourselves from the presumed authority, the appearance of authority, and free ourselves from money that is debt and the obligation to pay that stuff. And we're going to go through those things today. So I guess I'm going to start then by talking a little bit about the You Be the Judge document. Has everyone received that and filled one in? And Dana's over here. Also, Dana's email address is here. If there's anyone that's not here today that wants to receive the You Be the Judge document, just send an email to Dana here, this address, and she will email you that form, and you return the form back to Dana. And all we're doing, the purpose for that form is one, to come to a consensus of an understanding here, of an agreement of who we are. In other words, we're saying we know who we are, and, and that better as the day goes on. Why the purpose of that? And so I did have a question though too. Is anyone here filled out that form? And how many people on that form answered A? How many answered C? Okay, there's a few hands that didn't go up. Is that because you haven't received forms yet? Okay, so we do have forms here today if you wish to fill them out. These forms are kept in private and they're not going to be used against you, and it is optional. You're not obligated to fill it out. But I've yet to meet anyone that has answered C is responsible on that form. And so let's go over what that form is saying. If I find my version of it. The idea behind the You Be the Judge document is that a trial has taken place in a court. Just pretend in your mind. And then the facts and evidence at the conclusion of the trial is what is presented to the jury, for the jury makes its decision on these facts and evidence. And the first document is referenced in the You Be the Judge is what's called a statement of birth. This is a copy of one that's issued in the province of Ontario. Okay, and this is the document that the parents complete, or obligated to complete, in order not to be guilty of an offense by law. And this is where they register the birth. This is where the birth name is provided and the particulars about the child. This document here is what we call the document of title, not to you, but to the name on the form, the name of child. Now let's keep one thing in mind here, that a car has a name stuck to it. It has the make, the model, and the serial number. For example, you might be driving a Volkswagen Rabbit, so the car's name is Rabbit for all intents and purposes, and that name is stuck onto the car so you can identify the car by name. People do not have a name stuck to us, unlike a car. TV has a name stuck to it. Everything in commerce has a name stuck to it for identification purposes, to identify the asset. People do not have a name stuck to our body. Okay, and it's very significant to understand that, because it's when the name comes out of your mouth that the incrimination aspect starts to begin, where you can find yourself down into a contract here. And so the primary function of the statement of birth is where the government collects information, and the key part of that information is the name that appears on it. And the government, by maintaining possession of this document for all intents and purposes, is the owner of that name. Not you, the name. Okay? And we're just working from the You Be the Judge document for the time being here. The should clarify too, is a statement of birth is considered a birth certificate as well, but it is not the small wallet-sized certificate, unlike the one that most of us get, the little one that fits in your wallet. Point being is that the government, by having possession of this, is the owner of the name that appears on the birth certificate. Okay? The same name from the birth certificate will appear on, this is an example of a permit to an automobile. So we have a name that appears on the statement of birth, in this case Victor Beck. Same name appears on the birth certificate, Victor Beck. And in this case it's appearing on an ownership to a motorized vehicle, a car, which is actually called a permit. It's not a certificate of ownership, it's a permit. So you have permission to use the car, not your car. And the reason it's not your car is because it's not actually in a name you hold title to. So, back to the UB to judge. So we have the province of Ontario is in possession of that statement of birth. We have an automotive permit for an automobile has the same name appearing on it as appears on the statement of birth, and again the government maintains or retains title to the name, so they retain title to the car because they own the name. It is not your car, in other words. Man's name can look and sound similar to that of the legal name that appears on the government identification. And this is in part where we get ourselves, well, these experts at contracting start to presume a lot of things. For example, if I go into court and say my name is Vic Beck, they're instantly going to assume some connections back to this identification we just talked about here, the statement of birth and the birth certificate. At that point in time, now they are looking at you for performance on the contract. Again, contract is the law. There's nothing out there that's binding anyone up other than contractual obligations. The government does not have authority over your existence or your purpose or your reason for being here or any of that stuff, except that we have given it by contract. So it is not an act of birth or being born in this country that makes you obligated to the system. Is participating in contract, and we didn't know what got us into that mess. And again, it starts with the name. There's no other way. If you've ever been to court, imagine everyone going to court and there's no names on the documents. Who are they going to call? Who's going to appear? I've heard stories, well, it's got nothing to do with the name. Well, if it has nothing to do with the name, then take the name off the document and send everybody outside. Are you going to go outside and call witness? Come in, please. Come in, please. You're wanted by the judge, please. And by not calling a name, who's going to respond to it? No one. So it absolutely starts with a name. And again, the name that's in your head and the name that's on paper are two separate things here. They are not one and the same. So your name may look and sound the same as the legal name, but it is not the same thing for legal purposes, for contracting purposes. Other issue is that man, in fact, is prohibited in this day and age from buying and selling, and certainly from banking in his own name. You cannot get a bank account in your name out of your head. Okay? And if you cannot get access to banking in your name of your head, then it begs the question, whose money is in that bank account that I just worked to put there and then bought a house with? Okay? So with respect to banking, it is impossible in this country. In fact, maybe Lee will share, but he was told by the bank that even if the Supreme Court orders it, they will not allow you and I to open up an account in our own name. When I say own name, it's a name that's got nothing to do with these legal names. Okay? Can't be done. So whether or not you can buy and sell out there in commerce in a name of your head, you cannot pay for it with money that comes from a bank account that was opened in the name of your own head. And as you'll realize, hopefully by the end of the day, if you're not using your own money to buy something, then whatever you're purchasing with someone else's money, who owns it? Okay, and I guarantee, and I'm sure you realize that your picture is not on the money. It says Bank of Canada, it says Canada on there, so whoever owns the money owns whatever is purchased with it. Okay, and all money flows through a bank account, whether it's in the form of income coming in, or checks or debits being out to spend for vendors or purchases or to meet contractual obligations. Doesn't matter, all money flows through a bank account. So a big issue we're going to discuss today, more so in the afternoon perhaps, will be the banking aspect of this and some stuff that I'm doing and what I believe to be the actual remedy to the whole situation. One thing about money is debt. And I think everyone here is familiar with the promise to pay, promissory note. There's only one way to cancel that debt,